Turn to those horrific claims we mentioned earlier that authorities in Shanxi province in central northern China forced a 7-month pregnant woman to have an abortion. The outpouring of public anger was sparked by graphic photographs posted online. Now, these were accompanied by allegations that the family planning authorities in the village of Zhengjia abducted 22-year-old Fang Jianmei and forcibly induced an abortion by killing the fetus in her womb. She and her husband have a 5-year-old girl, and according to China's one-child policy, or family planning policy as it's officially known, most couples are limited to having one child or else they face heavy fines and other sanctions. However, in many areas, local family planning authorities, fearful of angering their superiors, resort to much harsher action to avoid exceeding their quotas. In fact, the activist Chen Guangcheng, who recently fled to the US Embassy to escape illegal detention, first angered local authorities in his city of Linyi by exposing their involvement in hundreds of forced abortions. Feng's husband, Deng Jiyuan, told media he was away working when the abortion was carried out. He said authorities took his wife away to discuss a $6,000 fine, the equivalent of 4 years' income for the family. However, he says she was instead taken to a hospital and forcibly given an injection, and she lost the baby 2 days later. A photograph taken at the time showed Feng lying in a hospital bed with the dead baby beside her. Deng also denied a local family planning authority statement, which has now disappeared from its website, that claimed that Feng had agreed voluntarily to an abortion. And in fact, the Shanxi provincial government has now confirmed that the case is basically true. It's apologized, or it's got the local government in Ankang, where the hospital was based, to apologize to the woman, and it has suspended 3 local officials. Well, to find out just what is being said in China's online community about this shocking case, let's cross over now to the newsroom and join our researcher, Esther Dung. Now, Esther, this sort of illegal practice in China has been documented repeatedly by activists and foreign press, but the reaction of the public, certainly online, to this incident seems to be almost as much of surprise that such a thing could happen as of shock or revulsion. So, can you explain why that is?
Well, first I have to say, actually, stories of forced abortion simply don't get reported in the Chinese media. And I guess many posters just didn't have any idea such things happened unless they've had a personal experience. And in this case, in fact, Feng's family told the media the reason they took photos was to have proof because the hospital wouldn't allow them to take the dead baby away. Now, based on the comments I've seen, plenty of posters believe that if it went for these shocking pictures, this case wouldn't have attracted media attention either. Like this poster named Ping Er, who comes from Guangdong and tells an even more horrible story. It's only because they posted the pictures online that people know about it. Actually, this kind of thing happens every day. Where I live, a mom was forced to undergo abortion in the 8th month of pregnancy, and the baby was even crying when it was first taken out, and was immediately suffocated to death by a pillow. And this poster on Sohu.com also says this is not unusual and explains why. This kind of thing is commonplace in the countryside, and it's a way for the local officials to make political progress. In well-developed areas, the local governments ensure their political advance by handing in huge amount of taxes, while in less developed places, they have to turn to selling land or enforced abortions to keep the population down.
Okay, so now that so many people are aware that this is not a rarity, what are net users' first reactions on hearing Feng's story in this case, and of course of seeing those really shocking pictures?
Well, of course, lots of shock and anger. Many say whatever the reason, the woman has the right to give birth to her baby, and the baby is innocent. First, listen to this furious poster from Hubei. It's a human life. It's nothing but murder. And Lian Lian Er on Youku.com is also unhappy. I'm really shocked and sad to see this news. A human life was snuffed out over a fine of just $6,000. Can't the officials think about the fines after the baby is born? I just hope it rests peacefully in heaven. And this poster, who says she's pregnant, has this warning on Yahoo.com. It's really dangerous to abort a baby when it's already 7 months old. And it's also a huge emotional blow to the mother. And also, I've seen a lot of posters who point out that the current one-child policy only applies to the common people. like this angry comment from a poster on iPhone.com. These officials are totally morally bankrupt. By their logic, people can have a second baby as long as they can pay the fines. If they can't, the baby must die. And this poster named Piao Ling agrees. It seems the law only applies to us ordinary people. Why does nobody punish those celebrities who give birth to more than one baby, simply because they can afford the fines?
Okay, as we mentioned earlier, the higher level Shanxi provincial authorities have admitted the facts as presented by the family are basically true. A further investigation is going ahead. But until then, local officials were actually insisting that Feng agreed to have an abortion. They said they had persuaded her repeatedly, and they claimed that they did everything according to the law. How have these claims gone down online?
Well, as you can imagine, not very well. In fact, from what I've seen, nobody seemed to be buying this. Here are some examples of responses to give you an idea of the mood. First, a woman on 163.com. It's unbelievable that a woman who tried every means to hide from the local officials simply in order to give birth would agree to kill her 7-month-old baby. And she told the media that she was even bitten on the way to the hospital for trying to resist. And this so-called voluntary procedure was done without any of her family present. Finally, Wang Pan, who writes on the Henan Business Daily, has plenty more to say. I don't believe any mom in her 7th month of pregnancy would agree to an abortion. And the local authorities said they talked to her several times to persuade her to give up the baby. That behavior itself was beyond their remit. I also think the provincial department is only investigating because no one is convinced by the county government's explanation. But I doubt we will get a truthful investigation result.
Well, a little pessimistic, but perhaps those preliminary findings give some room for optimism. I suppose we'll have to wait and see for the full results. Okay, Esther, before we wrap up, without the family planning policy, as it's called, the one-child policy, this sort of incident wouldn't arise. So what thoughts have you seen about this policy in general?
Well, based on the comments I've come across, there are still those who support it and others who oppose it. The former believe population control is necessary, like Da Mo Liu Hua, who remarks, China has a big population but not enough resources. Lots of parents simply want to have more babies, but they don't think about whether the child will have a good life in the future. These parents are irresponsible, both to the babies and the country. While this poster on Sohu.com is a typical example from the other camp, he says, for me, the idea of family planning policy should be educating families to decide how many babies would be best for them. The Population Planning Bureau should help couples who want babies to give birth to healthy babies, and help those who want no kids avoid unexpected pregnancy. And finally, I'd like to share the conclusion of a feature published by QQ.com on this topic, which is also something that worries a lot of Chinese people nowadays. If those working at the population planning departments don't obey the law of the land, which bans forced abortion, then what's the point of having the family planning policy in the first place?
Well, indeed, that certainly seems a valid concern, and whether those members of the local authority are punished in the end for breaking the law or simply for the greater sin of getting caught remains to be seen as well. Thanks for that, Esther. And that was China Take researcher Esther Dong with online reaction to that case of a forced abortion in rural Shanxi province. Next here on China Take, some of the top trending phrases on China's most popular search engines.